Ethan Carter had always loved old houses. The way their walls seemed to hold memories, the way the wood creaked like a living thing. It fascinated him. As a freelance photographer who specialized in abandoned places, he had spent years wandering through forgotten schools, factories, and decaying mansions, capturing their eerie beauty. But the house on Hollow Creek Road was different. He hadn't gone looking for it. It had found him. A simple envelope had arrived in his mailbox one damp November morning. No return address, just his name scrawled across it in hurried handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper with an address, nothing else. Hollow Creek Road, number 17. He had never heard of it, and Google Maps showed nothing but a forested stretch with no clear marker. Ethan should have thrown it away, but curiosity gnawed at him. That night, he dreamed of a house with black windows and of whispers rising through the cracks in the floorboards. When he woke up sweating, the address on the paper burned in his mind like it had always been there. By the following weekend, he was driving into the woods with his camera bag on the seat beside him. The road narrowed as he went deeper into Hollow Creek. Branches scratched the sides of his car like claws, and the late autumn fog thickened until it was hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Just when he thought he must have taken a wrong turn, he saw it, a crumbling iron gate hanging crooked on its hinges, half swallowed by vines. The number 17 was carved into the stone pillar, nearly erased by time. The house stood beyond, crouched in the mist like some slumbering animal. Its roof sagged in places, and the windows were so dark they looked painted black. The porch was warped, and one of the columns had snapped, leaning at an unnatural angle. Yet there was something expectant about it, as though it had been waiting for him. Ethan felt that same gnawing curiosity intensify. He parked the car, slung his camera around his neck, and pushed through the gate. The air grew noticeably colder as he approached the house. Each step on the rotting porch groaned beneath his weight. The front door was swollen with age, but when he pressed against it, it yielded without resistance, opening into darkness that smelled of damp wood and dust. "Hello," Ethan called softly, though he didn't expect an answer. But something did answer. It wasn't a voice exactly, more like the soft hush of air moving through cracks, shaping itself into something that almost sounded like words, a whisper too low to catch. He froze, goosebumps prickling across his arms. Then he reminded himself old houses made sounds, drafts, settling beams, rats in the walls. That was all. He lifted his camera and began to shoot. The interior was worse than he expected. Wallpaper peeled in curling strips, and mold bloomed black across the ceiling. A chandelier dangled precariously by a single rusted chain. The floorboards were warped with water damage, but when Ethan walked across them, they seemed unnervingly sturdy, as though the house wanted him inside. His lens caught fragments, a stairwell winding up into shadow, a cracked mirror that distorted his reflection into something long and thin, a child's toy horse missing one wheel. Each click of the shutter echoed through the silence. Then he heard it again. That whisper. This time, it was clearer, a breathy thread of sound curling through the hall. Ethan spun, camera raised, nothing. He played the photo back on his screen. Nothing unusual, just an empty hallway. But when he zoomed in, his stomach lurched. In the far corner of the frame, just by the door, was the faint impression of a figure. Pale, indistinct, almost blending with the wall. Ethan's heart thudded. He blinked and looked again. The figure was gone. He lowered the camera, suddenly aware of how heavy the silence was. The air pressed against his eardrums, thick, like the house was listening. That was when the floor creaked upstairs. Ethan told himself it had to be raccoons, or maybe a squatter. Still, he found himself gripping the camera strap as though it could protect him. Slowly, he climbed the stairs, each step groaning underfoot. At the top was a long corridor, lined with doors. Most were shut, but one at the far end stood open just a crack. Something tugged at him, urging him closer. The whisper returned, weaving through the hall, brushing against his ear so faintly he almost thought it came from inside his head. He reached the door. Inside was a bedroom. The wallpaper was faded pink, patterned with roses, and the air smelled faintly of rot. A small bed stood against the wall, its blanket moth-eaten. A doll sitting upright on the pillow. Its glass eyes were cloudy, its hair matted. Ethan raised his camera. Click.
Through the lens, the doll's head moved. Not much, just the barest tilt, as though acknowledging him. His breath caught in his throat. He lowered the camera. The doll sat motionless, lifeless, its head perfectly straight. The whisper grew louder. It was coming from the walls now, seeping through the cracks, curling around him like smoke. He thought he could make out words, leave, leave, leave. But beneath that, another voice seemed to ride along, stay, stay, stay. Ethan stumbled back, heart hammering. For the first time, he thought of leaving, forgetting the whole thing, running back to his car. But when he turned to the hallway, the open door at the far end slammed shut with a violent crack. The house shuddered, and Ethan realized he wasn't alone.